sharing those recordings.
Sure, if I'm ever behind, don't bother.
Hi, Susanna. Good to see you tonight.
Hi, thanks. It's nice to be present in this meeting. I thought I was just observing. I wasn't sure.
Oh, no, we're glad to have you on board.
Nice.
And in fact, I'll since you're here, I'll ask you if you'd like once we get started to just talk about your project and your plans.
Let me just make a technical comment, Chris, if you don't mind. So the only person I can't pull in as a panelist is Paul. That's probably because of Paul Thomas. Are you on a phone as opposed to iPad or something?
No,
Okay.
I'm on my iPad.
You are. Let me just try one more time. Let me see if I can get you in there. It just makes it hard for me to, oh, there it goes. All right, well, good. 45th time is a charm. Okay.
Okay.
So, all right, no problem. Then I can watch for hand raises and stuff like that. It just makes it easier. Okay, I'm going to mute myself and still waiting on Jim. So I'll keep an eye out for him.
And he had told me that he was on travel and he would join if at all possible. So.
Okay, I'll keep an eye out for him.
Okay, thank you. So let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. This is a special meeting of the Planning Commission for Harpers Ferry. It is March 8th, 2022, and we are called to order at 7:02 p.m. And we have the full Planning Commission with us tonight. Other than so far, Jim Jenkins. We'll hope that Jim is able to join us shortly. We also have Kevin Hamilton, the town ordinance compliance officer, and Susanna Dennis. Susanna, am I saying your name correctly?
So Susanna, you're muted. There you go.
Okay. So good to have everyone here. And has everyone had a chance to look at the agenda? And is everyone okay with the agenda for tonight?
Yes.
Yes.
I think if there are no objections, then we'll go with that. And we have two orders of business tonight. The main one is this discussion and action on Susanna Dennis's application to alter within the street right-of-way at 371 Henry Clay Street. I want to make one clarification. We've had some things sent to me that I want to make real clear that this project involves some alteration of her private land and then alteration of the public right-of-way for the street, for Henry Clay Street. And because the BZA and the ordinance compliance officer are addressing the retaining wall that will be on private land, our only job tonight is to decide to recommend or not recommend the alteration of the street right-of-way to the town council. Ordinance 909.03 for the town says that alteration of rights of way is depends on permit from the Planning Commission and the town council. So checking with Kevin and some others, I don't think the town has, this has been done several times, but I don't think the town has any particular paperwork. So what we have a little bit of time to spend before the town council meeting, but I think what will handle this will be If the permit is granted by the town council, then we'll just give that information in letter form to Kevin Hamilton to include with the permit. So with that, Susanna, if you would like to, could you tell us a little bit about your project? And it's my understanding you're pretty new at that property, and maybe you could tell us, just introduce yourself as well.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris. I'm Susanna Dennis. It's nice to meet you all. I bought 371 Henry Clay November 1st of last year, and I've been doing a lot of work on it. It's a great house. And I have noticed though that parking is really a challenge around there. I have a couple of neighbors who have parking spaces right in front of their properties, or there's kind of like a derelict home that another neighbor parks in front of. I've been parking there's kind of like a pullout, and there's space for a car there. So I've been parking there, but in the winter time, especially, it's really muddy and the hillside is kind of coming down. And so the space gets smaller and smaller. And then also I worry with the snow plows coming by that I may not be sufficiently off the road that they can get by without like clipping my car. So I'm putting in this application to build a retaining wall, basically, so I can have 2 parking spaces in front of the property. And the only reason this retaining wall is necessary is, as you guys have probably seen from the property, it's kind of like on the slope. So it is important to sufficiently hold back that land. I mean, I've noticed like around Harper's Ferry, if I go around Fillmore Street, I mean, most people do park off of the road, near or in front of where they're living. And the only reason I need a wall is because of that slope, right? So, in an ideal world, I wouldn't have to, but yeah, I think it's a good idea. I think it will add value to the property. I think it'll add value to the town. I mean, there's really, really scarce parking on Henry Clay. There's some resident parking on Fillmore. There's resident parking on Washington. But as you guys know, parking is really limited. And that's part of the charm of the old house. But, unfortunately, I'm not like pulling up my horse to park out front anymore. So excuse me, I'm cooking dinner for my kids. But so I just hope, I'm curious to hear, what people think. If there are any concerns, I'm happy to address specific issues. And thank you for, reviewing my permit. I hope my drawings were okay. I'm learning a lot about how to read a plat and how to draw to scale and stuff. So if there are any questions for clarification, I'm happy to jump in. Thanks.
And I just want to clarify, I think the drawings that you provided, the exhibits in your application were pretty clear on this, but just to confirm, and Kevin Hamilton, chime in here if you'd like to as well. The new wall would be entirely on your property, but the old wall is slightly into the public right-of-way. Is that correct?
Yes, that her new proposed wall will be a good 1.5 feet on her property from the side of the road. So the wall she's building will be on her property.
I'm not sure about that. I wish that was the case, but the marker for my property line is about 1.5 feet in from the current wall, and I was hoping to just match up with the current wall, so we would go from that dry stack to the retaining wall. So technically part of the wall, the proposed wall, I believe would be on what I thought was my property, but it isn't.
Right. The Henry Clay Street has a 24-foot right of way. So if you take the center of the road and measure over 12 foot, that's the marker that I put on your bank side there. So, but your proposed wall will go past that more, though. So the wall itself will be on your property.
Yes.
So the new wall.
And you do
on,
need parking for sure.
and then Kevin, also you're saying that the old dry stack is on the public right of way, right? But just
Yes.
100%.
barely in. Okay.
Yeah. But my plan is that the new wall would match up with the old dry stack and then go in with a nice curve. So potentially part of the new wall would be on that right of way. I think it would look weird to have just a gap. Anyway, yeah.
So the wall would bend around to the dry stack at
Exactly.
the edge of the property.
Yeah, she's correct there. It will curve back to the other wall.
Yes.
But the big
Okay.
portion of the wall will be on her property though.
Yeah, and that seems to match what the drawings are showing to me anyway.
Chris, you have some raised hands, just so you know. Tim Wisecarver and Ken Dill. Apologies for the interruption.
Okay, I need to change my view because I can't see everyone at all at once. Let me, okay. Tim, you have a question or comment?
Yeah, thank you. I was just slightly confused by both drawings. If I'm looking at exhibit, the original plat, I don't see any lines that indicate a street. Whereas in exhibit A and exhibit B, the lines that seem to designate the boundaries of the street are drawn in. Now, does that make any difference? Are those the official lines that we're dealing with? That's my first question. And my second is, I don't understand exactly why the project is on the right of way. That's what I don't understand. I see the 24 feet right of way means that if you measure 12 feet from the center of the road, right? In each direction. So
Correct.
and that's what I mean. If you measure 12 feet from the center towards the property, isn't isn't the project completely outside of that? And not
Tim,
on the town right away. That's what I'm having trouble understanding.
Tim, what I'm seeing on Kevin's or on the exhibit A, if you have that in front of you.
Yeah.
And Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong on this. The red dotted line is the edge of the town right of way. That would be 12 feet from the
Yes.
center of Henry Clay Street. So that would be anything below that in the map is the private property.
But
Can we share the,
that-
is there any way to share that?
that middle line, Chris, is that the surveyor's line or because it's not on the original document? That's what was puzzling me. Who drew the line? Who drew the dotted line? That's the center of the street.
The center of the street is the line I put on there. In the
So
photo.
I can answer that question. I had physically a view of the center of the street, which Mr. Hamilton marked, and I knew how far that was from the marker of my property line. And so I used that distance to measure the distance. Basically, I needed like a baseline
Sure.
on where that center of the street was, so I could do
Right.
measure, like assess where is the right of way and everything. But it is not on the original plat. In fact, it looks like the ground has moved a lot since those property lines were first marked. So you'll see even the right of way is kind of like skewed.
But
Um,
but if you look at the 12 feet, where you have 12 feet there, it looks like everything that's happening is beyond that right of way towards your property and not on the town right of way at all.
Are you looking at the original
looking at
wall is
Exhibit A.
completely,
I'm looking at Exhibit A,
so
Can we put
that's the
exhibit A
current
up on?
wall.
which is a straight line. It running parallel to the center of at 12 feet from the center of the street. And all the work seems to be in the direction of the house and nothing on the right of way.
So that shows the existing wall, and it is within the right of way. You're correct. But that's not the proposed work.
No.
Ken, thank you for sharing your screen there. It saved me from having to
Can you
figure
turn
that
it
out.
upside? Is it possible to turn it upside down? Or turn it 90 degrees?
Not with my lack of licensing for this product, no.
Can you enlarge it, Ken?
Yeah, I could zoom in on part of it. Yeah.
Thank you.
So the red line is the town right of way. I see.
The dotted line,
The red dotted line is the town right of way. I see.
yes.
Okay.
And
Right.
then the existing dry stack is that penciled in line.
The shaded line.
Yes,
Oh, I see.
This one.
right. Mhm. So that would
I see.
disappear.
Okay. Because on
And
mice, there's another line.
Yeah.
That's not the red line. But okay. All right. I see now. All right.
so it is widening up that
I see.
flat surface
I
for
see.
the parking,
Okay.
moving it back into Susanna's property
Okay.
just slightly.
So that means that the old fence, the old stack is on the town right of way.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, I see. Oh, thank you.
All right,
And
so
then-
I think, oh.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think Ken, Paul, and then Roberta had their hands up.
Okay, Ken, go ahead.
Thank you. I'll since I'm already sharing, I'll move in here. And I think part of my question was already answered in the discussion, but just to clarify, this reddish line is the proposed new wall, right? The majority of which would not be on the right of way, all the straight
Correct.
portion. And it's just the two ends that would go into the right of way.
Correct.
Okay. And I think it's a follow-up question for Kevin. So somewhere on here it says it measures the right of way from 12 feet from the center of the pavement.
Yes.
Is this pavement actually in the center of the right of way?
No.
So there's still, I saw on the first page of the proposal, there's there proposed 8 feet from the pavement, which I think is essentially this pencil line here between the retaining wall.
Did you say is the
But
pavement?
I misunderstood. Go ahead, please, Kevin.
was your question, is the pavement on her property? Is that what you're saying?
I'm trying to understand how much clearance there would be from the existing pavement to the start of her wall of the straight part.
Okay, from the town right away to the start of her wall, what I come up with is about 1.5 feet would be onto her property, the new wall. Now on the ends where it curves out, that's what we was talking about, will eventually creep back out to the town property.
Okay. But this here, this pencil mark, is that your pencil mark? And I think that's basically saying 8 feet from the pavement to the start of the wall.
Yeah, that's Susanna put that in there, but I think that's what she's got, yeah.
And the
And that looks
street is,
correct, though.
the street is 10 feet wide, if that helps.
Right.
So we're looking at like 5 feet, which is half of the street, and then another 8 feet to the wall.
Okay, I just want to understand. I think we're making an assumption about where the pavement lies within the right of way. I think Kevin, you're saying the pavement is actually in the center of the right of way, or maybe off to one side.
Off to one side.
Okay.
But you know, the 24-foot right of way, if you go from the center of the road, some of it goes down over the bank opposite of her, and the other part goes on her property.
Okay.
Thank you.
Roberta, you also had a question or a comment?
Yes, was Paul ahead of me or? am
No,
I
you
next?
were ahead, Roberta.
Okay, all right, thank you, Paul.
Sure.
I'm glad to, thank you, Craig, and I'm glad to see other commissioners are having the same frustration and hard to read this drawing as I am. But my experience reading surveys, the dark, heavy dashed line with double dots along that street is the property line. It's not the drawn in red line by the applicant. So the survey line that is the double dot dash heavy black line is the property line along the street, not the red line drawn by the client. So I think it's very important that we get the surveyor to find the other side of the road pins. In other words, exactly where that right-of-way width is, and show on the survey exactly where Henry Clay asphalt pavement is, and exactly where that center line of that road is. And then let's have the applicant get some better dimensions on where their wall is going to be placed. Because let's say Henry Clay pavement is really way over on the other side of that center line, and we're going to measure 8 feet. Let's say the edge of that 8 feet is the center line of the right of way, and there really should be 12 feet to the applicant's property line. And so you're right, Ken, we're making assumptions off of a sketch, off of where we think the asphalt is. And my recommendation is if the applicant could have the surveyor really show us where that right of way is, and have the surveyor dimension where this wall, new wall, is going to be, so that we are really clear on who's responsible for what and where this new construction sits. They're my initial concerns, but if there's more opportunity to discuss anything else, I'd like you to come back to me. Thank you.
Paul?
Yes. Actually, my only question is, will the new design change anything as it pertains to drainage on the property? And therefore, because everything's a pretty steep grade in that area, and I'm just getting familiar, I went by it. And I just wanted to know if there had been any consideration for, because typically behind a retaining wall, there is some accommodation for drainage so water doesn't build up behind the wall. And I just wanted to know if there was any concern for what could be changing as far as drainage or impact on neighbors.
Yeah, thanks. I'll answer that first question first.
Thank you.
So yes, right now with the dry stack wall, water would flow freely through and onto the road. It is important to build in drainage, and so I'm working with, as you saw in the proposal, Cornerstone, and they have proposed, and everyone I've spoken with has proposed to put, it's not a French drain, but basically like a drainage system behind the wall. And with the concrete block, we'll have to put like some kind of drainage holes at regular intervals to allow the water to move freely out. Does that answer your question?
It does. The construction question that absolutely answers. And I didn't know if there was any idea of what the volume of that would be, or what if neighbors would experience any significant change as a result of that.
I have one question about the surface, Susanna. Is elsewhere along Henry Clay Street, it looks like basically those parking spots are just kind of packed dirt with a little bit of gravel. Is that your plan, to have something similar to that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good, because that creates a permeable surface. So that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Ken has his hand up.
Okay, Ken?
Thanks, Chris. A follow-up question. It may seem like I'm just harping on this issue, but I just want to understand. I know this indicates 8 feet from the pavement to the start of the wall. Just want to point that out before I scroll up to the top of this document. Where this says digging into the property 8 feet from the asphalt. So to me, that means the depth of what's being dug into is 8 feet from the pavement. And then there's some thickness to the wall, which would put the edge of the wall closer to the pavement than 8 feet. Am I misunderstanding?
No, I think you're just reading it very literally. We would actually have to dig in 9 feet, right? Or 9.5. And then you backfill it a little with the gravel. And then there is about a foot of, which is the thickness of the wall. It's just, perhaps poor choice of wording on my part, but the final wall would be 8 feet in.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then just one other point of clarification here. It looks like the wall is extending beyond this property line. It's on the right of way, but it's not on another homeowner's property. But it goes beyond that. Is do you know the reason for that? Is it structural?
So that's where it would meet up with the existing wall, and that's just the existing wall, which goes on to my next door neighbor's property.
Gotcha.
But that
Okay.
all that straight would not be altered at all. I'd like to get back to the question about the center of the right of way. I don't really understand the question. I assume that the center of the road is the center of the road, and then you measure 12 feet from each side. If I'm wrong, please, I'm happy to adjust the drawings, but I mean, I have access to where my property line is. I don't have a surveyor who is able to identify like where the, these like right-of-way issues and where the center is. Like, that's something that I would really ask the town to help with, figuring some of that stuff out, because I really don't understand. But I want to be in compliance. I want to address all your concerns.
Roberta has her hand raised.
And to clarify on that, you have had your property marked, correct, Susanna? I thought there were some markers
So there were markers from before my house, before I purchased the house.
Mm-hmm.
And those markers remain, and they are, one of them is rebar with the yellow cap. So I think it's a permanent marker. The other one is just rebar, probably the cap fell off, but those are
Okay.
permanent markers. Yeah, but I have not worked with a surveyor on this wall project.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Roberta? And you are muted.
You're muted, Roberta.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Chris. Is there any other information Kevin Hamilton needs to relay to us about the project?
No, it's pretty much, we'll be deciding right now, right away versus a new wall. I don't have anything else to add to it.
Okay. May I ask a couple questions of the applicant?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Question is how do you access the property now? Do you access it from Henry Clay or from Fillmore?
From Henry Clay, and you can see there's an existing walkway that is not, can you see it in front of the porch? And it comes out onto the street.
Okay. And so there's no driveway cut into your lot. I guess that's lot, if that's 2, is that lot 1?
Lot
Or that
2.
lot 2. What is above lot 2?
It's lot 1, which I do not own.
Okay, so did you only buy when you purchased the property? Did you only purchase lot 2?
Yes.
Okay,
And
because
that's the walkway right there.
okay, because the county records have you as the address for this property is composed of 3 lots. So your property is not composed of all 3 of those lots?
Are you sure the name is correct? The previous owner did own at least 2 of the lots to my knowledge, but they sold them separately.
Okay, so you only possess lot 2. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, that makes a lot of my questions much different. Okay, now I understand more that you are only lot 2. All right, thank you. Okay, and I think, let me just go down my list of questions here. Okay, so, and I guess this is for the, something to discuss with the town and the commissioners, is if the majority of the portion of her new construction is the wall, and it's solely on her property, we also need to consider the footer of that wall. So we want to make sure that that footer for that wall is also on her property. But then when it joins up with the existing wall, I would like to see a detail on that, how it's going to mesh with the dry stack. What is the material that's going to be used? And then Ken brought up a very good point. If that dry stack is also retaining the neighbors, are you going to be working with a structural engineer? Because once you remove that dry stack, you might affect the land of the neighbors. And that might cause erosion problems for the neighbors. So there's a lot of coordination that I don't see that's been done yet. And I hope that it does get done and what have you. And I guess we didn't get an updated elevation to what your material choices are and how that works with the dry stack that's going to remain. Did you have any information that you could share with us on that?
Sure. So initially, I had been planning to do the wall, and I got a detailed proposal from the contractors who I'm working with for landscaping bricks. But when I submitted the proposal, I learned that the preferred material is, as opposed to like a dry stack wall there would be great, but it would be like a lot of money, around $35,000. And so it's out of my price range. So the alternative to a dry stack wall would be a cinder block wall that's parged and then painted. So that is the material that I will be using, and I'm working with the contractor now to draw up a revised proposal for that. That was not provided, so because they're working on it now, like in the last week or two, we changed the material to comply with the town's preferences. Now, in terms of the issues of erosion, this project with the contractor I'm working with will happen very quickly, exactly because that's a lot of land that needs to be held back. And so, you know, believe it or not, that little dry stack wall, 1.5 feet, is doing something, right? So once we remove that and then excavate the new wall with a very strong footer, which will go up very quickly, right? We're not going to hang out and let the wall, let the hillside erode. So I don't, you know, they have a lot of experience building retaining walls. I don't have any reason to believe that the contractors don't have, you know, that I should be concerned or my neighbor should be concerned. You know, they've done projects like this in the past and successfully. But they're, you know, we do want to move quickly once we start the project to prevent any issues.
Okay, all right, thank you for that. And then I have the concern about the 8-foot depth. In my experience of doing transportation and parking layouts for a full-size vehicle, it's usually a 9-foot width clear and 18 feet long for a standard size vehicle. So the 8 feet kind of scares me that you might not have enough room for a full-size vehicle. So I'd have your engineer look at that again for you as to a standard size vehicle size. And if you're going to put 2 of them there, I think you might have the length, but I'm worried about the depth. And especially if someone's getting out of their vehicle and opening the door and what have you. One of the last questions I have is, let's say this ends up half on the town's right of way and half the responsibility of the owner. And then Chris, maybe we can get to the town about this, is what kind of hold harmless agreements do we put in place? What kind of maintenance agreements do we put into place? She had an excellent point. If the snow vehicle, snow plows damage her wall, who's going to be responsible or what? So what kind of documents and legal documents do we need to have in place as we go forward? And I think that's it for me.
I have a question for clarification. You know, I based the depth of that parking place. I understand that it's not kind of a standard parking spot in terms of being 9 feet. I am trying to just be like adapt to the context, and that 8 feet from the edge of the roadway reflects what my neighbor's parking spaces are. And so just acknowledging that a large SUV, a truck probably is not going to be comfortable parking there, and that's not a good place for them to park. Just being open with that. But if I need to make it larger to be in compliance, you know, please do let me know about that.
Ken has his hand up.
Yeah, I was going to make just one comment about the size of the lot or the size of the parking spot. We all know that Henry Clay has its limitations. I frequently lead cars up there when I give park tours, and I always warn the people that I'm leading along. You know, if there's another car that we meet in the road, we have to pull over to one side, and so no, I don't think too many people speed along Henry Clay. That is one advantage of it. But it is a tight space with some limitations. Yeah, Ken, go ahead.
I just want to follow quickly on that question about the width of the parking space, and point that in the Harvest Ferry ordinance, there's a definition of parking space and a definition of parking space, comma, compact. So a parking space not less than 8.5 feet wide. A compact parking space is not less than 7.5 feet wide.
Say the last part of that again. The compact space is not less than 7.5?
That's correct.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
One last question from me. If this is going to be a parking space, is it going to be designated for this resident or this property owner or this property address? And how is that controlled? Like if someone thinks it's off-street parking that anybody can park there, or it has the resident sticker sign, must be a resident, how do we control it for Miss Suzanne to only park there?
I'd actually like to defer to Kevin on this, because I don't know that you can label something private parking. Only Susanna can park here.
We actually do have resident only signs available from Town Hall.
But that would be any resident
not,
Harper's Ferry.
Yes,
yes.
Well, that's true. Yeah. Generally, they are not needed in, I have parking that in front of my house that we got permission to alter the right of way years ago. Have never had any problems. Now we are at the dead end of East Ridge Street, which doesn't get, too many people coming down there looking for parking, but I'm guessing that Henry Clay would probably be in that situation. But yeah, we would have the parking signs available if they were needed. Anything else?
But she understands that anyone that has a residential parking permit could park there. It would not be like if she comes home from the grocery store and the two spaces are occupied, she has no place to park. So this is going to be 2 parking spaces open to any resident in Harpers Ferry. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, are you asking me if I understand, or are you asking the group?
I'm asking all of us. Do the commissioners, is this what we are? Is this?
I think that would be correct.
It is correct.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Probably not a big concern, but it would be a possibility.
Sure.
Okay. And Miss Dennis understands that. These are not solely for her use. Yes. Miss Dennis, do you understand that? Okay. All right.
I do.
I'm open to. I'd hate for you to not have a parking space when you come home, but it could happen. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns, or would anyone like to make a motion? And I would say if we do recommend this, our only ability is really to recommend a yay or a nay to the town council. It's their decision.
I would like to try to make a motion if I could.
Okay.
And I'll make the motion and you guys decide how you want to handle this. I'd like to make a motion that we postpone approving at this time and allow the applicant to work with a surveyor to get a more complete understanding of the right-of-way and the dimensions required and present us a revised drawing with better dimensions and location of where the wall will be.
Okay, is the town gonna provide me with a surveyor to work with?
Hang on to that, Susanna. Paul, did you get that motion down? Do I hear a second on that?
This Ken, I'll second.
Okay, is there further discussion on that? And Susanna, maybe if you'd like to ask your question then.
Okay, sure. I mean, I already am facing a pretty hefty budget to do the construction for this wall. It would be a shame, and it would be a real dissuasion from me doing the work if I had to work with a surveyor. Additionally, I mean, I don't even know how that would work. Like, I'm not an expert. I'm like a single mom who is trying to just build a wall for a parking place. So I could really use help if this is the route we decide to go.
Do you have some hands up, Tim, and then Paul Thomas?
Yeah, Tim?
I'm against this motion. I think it places an onerous burden on the applicant. I think it overly complicates what should be, in my view, something fairly simple and practical. And so I'm against the motion.
Paul?
I had actually had some of the same questions, and actually Kevin Hamilton was great, because being new to the area, when he first sent this out, I had questions, and he really helped me through that. I don't think that there's anything to gain by bringing a surveyor into this. I think the center of the road issue, and as Kevin helped me understand, it really defines the where things fall from that point. To go to a more detailed survey, I don't see it serving any specific end that would change how we might want to move forward with our decision on this.
And Roberta, did you have another comment, or?
Yes, and maybe we can help with that. And maybe, Kevin, I don't know if there's another set of pins on the other side of the road, which we can truly find out where from Suzanne's pins in her corners of her property are. And then we find where the Henry Clay other side of the road pins are. And we truly find where that center of the line road is and measure. Because if Suzanne's going to put it at 8.5 feet now to cover for a standard size vehicle, great. Then her dimensions on the document needs to change. The dimensions on the document to us are now not correct. But, I don't know. Do we put conditions on our recommendation to town council that we have a better drawing and an up-to-date drawing and something more clear that also town council is going to understand? And that's really what I was getting at, is to have something more clear that town council will have the ability to look at, and we don't make a mistake and put Suzanne's wall 100% in the right of way, because that could happen if we don't have the correct dimensions laid out for us and for her. And that's my concern. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, so we have a motion before us well, Paul Mayhew, can you reread the motion for us?
Yeah, the way I captured it initially, which I will revise as necessary from the recording, is that we postpone approving at this time and allow the applicant to work with a surveyor to obtain a more complete understanding and to provide an updated drawing with the right-of-way.
Okay. If you are for that motion, indicate by raising your hand, or Paul Thomas, please say yeah, yay. Okay, all opposed?
I'm opposed.
I tried to
Okay.
raise my hand, but it wasn't coming up. So I'm for the motion. It wasn't showing up on the screen.
Okay, and Ken, were you all, I didn't see your vote either. Are you for the motion? Or?
Yeah, I apologize. I'm trying to reconsider it. It's too late. Discussion's closed though. I don't suppose we could reopen discussion for another question. I'll vote for the motion.
Okay, and what I got was two votes for, and let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 votes against. So motion fails. Does anyone have another motion?
I'll make a motion that we postpone approval of this application and allow the applicant to work with the OCO, Kevin Hamilton, to find exactly where the center of the line road is and stake out the correct dimensions and help the applicant truly understand where the wall is going to be placed and provide better drawings for review and resubmit to the Planning Commission.
Is there a second?
As Ken, I'll second. I'd also like to offer an amendment, but we can have discussion on that first one if you want. It's up to you.
Might be appropriate if you ask Roberta, well, tell us what you have in mind and see if Roberta's open to changing her motion to adjusting your motion.
It would just be an amendment to have the location of the retaining wall defined in terms of distance from the property line, which I think is probably easier to find, rather than from distance from the pavement. I think distance from the pavement is helpful for all of us to understand what this means ultimately, but I think distance from the property line is what the town council needs to approve.
I'll accept that amendment.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Okay, yeah, Tim?
Yeah.
I'm confused. I thought that we're supposed to vote on amendments. Roberta's accepted it. Are we discussing anything, or? I mean,
she has changed her motion and or accepted. Ken offered an amendment, but she has accepted it. So the motion has changed.
Okay, then is the new motion seconded, or are we discussing the new motion?
Ken was the second.
Okay, then we're discussing it?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, well, I'm against this motion as well, for the same reasons that I was against the first one. I feel like the ordinance control officer sees this as a reasonable, righteous project, and it's overly complicating something that should be simple. I think we should not do this. I think we should just pass it on up to the town council, and they're going to have to agree to the permit in any case, and that finding the surveying it and doing all this other stuff is unnecessarily complicating something that's and placing a burden on the owner that we don't need to do or shouldn't do.
Anyone else? For what it's worth, I will make a comment that we have used the center of the pavement in the past. The BZA has used that several times. We use the old Howell map from, what is it, Kevin, 1850 or
1853 or something.
53, yeah. So we do use that center of the pavement frequently to probably avoid things. And I guess my feeling is there's some concern with right of way, but the real question is the pavement going to be obscured? I think that pavement is the main issue for us, barring any concern with utilities or anything. So I guess I'm tending to agree with Tim on that it may be a complication that's not needed at this point. Any other comments though?
I agree with you on that, Chris.
Okay. So anyone else? So all in favor of this motion to work with Kevin and the property line, please indicate with a hand up or a yay.
Roberta's hand is up. And I don't see, I think indicating yes, she's in favor.
Okay, and all opposed?
I'm opposed.
Okay, looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Motion fails. Does anyone have another motion? Tim, you want to make a motion there?
Sure, I'll try. I would like to move that we approve our part of the permit to go forward with this project, and that we send it up to the town hall for their recommending that they approve it. And
Okay, and if I could just have you, you agree to change town hall to town council there?
of course, yeah.
Okay. Do I have a second on that? I think I heard someone. Was that?
I second it.
Oh, Paul. Okay.
Would you like to make
Roberta
an
has,
motion?
Roberta has her hand up.
Roberta.
Yes, I'd like to make an amendment or add to the motion, add some text to the motion, please. And can we add recommendations that the town council considers if this needs to have maintenance agreements agreed to between the owner and the town, if it needs to have any hold harmless agreements between the owner and the town, and any other legal document and consideration added as a condition for the approval of the permit.
So if am I understanding it correct that you want to amend the motion to recommend that the town council comes to a legal agreement, or I guess I'm not following what your amendment is.
Okay, and basically it's because half of this is going to be on town right of way and half of this is going to be on private property, but it's a joint structure.
Mhm.
One relates to the other, one depends on the other. And so we're tying ourselves together with the owner of the property and being responsible. So who's going to take liability when the wall's damaged? Who's going to take liability when someone is parking there and is hurt? Because, you know, there has to be a discussion with legal. I really believe there has to be some kind of documents in place that the town's liability is not, or there's some agreement between the property owner and the town with who's liable for what, is really what I'm getting at.
So I don't want to put words in your mouth, but if your amendment would be to recommend that the town council comes to legal clarity on liability. Does that cover
liability it? And liability between the town and the owner. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Do I hear a second on the amendment?
Actually, I have a question, Chris.
Uh-huh.
My question is that standard protocol or procedure for, I mean, there's a lot of these throughout the town. And I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel. I think that we've had good discussion and have better clarity as what's there. But is this creating a new situation for the town council to have to deal with? Or is this something that is a standard part of this process? Again, this is my first one of these discussions as a member of the planning commission, and I again think that this doesn't sound to me like it would be a standard procedure.
Okay. Is there a second to the amendment? If not, the amendment fails, and we would go back to Tim's original motion to send this to the town council with a recommendation for approval. And that was seconded by Paul Mayhew, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
All right.
Any other discussion on that? Yeah, Paul Thomas.
Oh, I'm sorry. No,
I forgot the hand to
Sorry.
come down. Okay. And Tim, did you have another comment or?
No.
Okay. Any other discussion? Roberta?
Yeah, so we're approving an emotion to approve a recommendation to town council.
Yes, to recommend approval to town council.
And I am not opposed to the concept. So Miss Susanna, I support what you need, but I think this planning commission needs more information, and the recommendation I'd like to see is a better recommendation to town council. So I understand what you need, but I apologize. I cannot support right now the way it's being presented to town council. So please don't think I'm not saying no. I just need more information, and I think we should do this a different way. So I apologize. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor of Tim's motion to recommend approval to town council, indicate with your hand up or aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, so motion carries 5-1.
6 to 1.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Are you getting?
Jim Jenkins is missing.
Yeah,
No,
Jim is out.
Oh,
You do
1,
roll-
2, 3.
Oh,
I'm sorry, you're right. Apologize.
Okay, Susanna, so we're going to get this on the town council agenda for March 14th. That's liable to be a very long meeting with lots of things. But when the agenda comes out, you'll probably have a good idea, or I might be able to give you a good idea Deb, who's administrating the meeting tonight, even better than me, where that might fall in the agenda if you want to take part. It'll probably be looking less at the nitty-gritty than we are, but you're welcome to attend and anything.
So,
Do you have any last minute comments for us, or?
Chris, if you don't mind, I'll just address what you were suggesting. The agenda has been posted for Monday's meeting. This is not included on it. There are other special meetings that will be coming forward in the end of the month that primarily have to do with budget items. So I don't know if it'll be able to be included on that, or if I might have to make till the next go around. Yeah.
Oh, I was hoping we could.
Yeah, the deadline for Monday is the Monday before. Yeah.
Sorry about that, Susanna. It'll be a little bit longer, but we will, I guarantee you we'll get you on the next possible agenda, and I'll keep you posted on that, okay? Or Kevin will.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for helping me understand this process. It's, I mean, it's interesting, and I appreciate all of your service to the town of Harpers Ferry.
Well, thank you. We are glad to see a resident in that wonderful old armory house taking care of things, and welcome to Harpers Ferry. Thank you.
Thank you.
I had on also on the agenda, just looking forward to the next agenda, and don't have really anything to say. I did send out, based upon our last meeting, the motion that had to do with the comprehensive plan, and then the mayor just emailed us, I believe yesterday, maybe a couple days ago, as we had discussed at the meeting. Did everyone get those emails?
Yes.
Okay. And so that will certainly be on the next agenda. And I can also tell you that we heard from Megan Deal, I believe, who with the Region 9 about the stormwater, and a representative from the town council of Bolivar, and me substituting for Storm if he's not back and available by the time of that meeting. We'll be reviewing a couple of bids or proposals for that stormwater study. So that'll be coming up, and we'll keep you posted on that. I think that could be after our next meeting, but I'll update you on that for sure. Does anyone have anything else coming up that we ought to have on our next agenda?
Looks like Tim said something, but I didn't hear anything.
Tim, did you want to make a comment?
Oh, yes. Do we need to appoint or recommend any kind of appointment to the tree committee for the person, for Mr. Mayhew, whose term was elapsed, or has that been taken care of?
His lapsed term has been addressed, and town council reappointed him.
Okay.
At the what was that, February meeting? Yeah, good question.
And we still need, we're lacking one more member for the tree committee, right?
Do we need one more member?
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So that would be something we could all think about, and maybe talk to some neighbors about if there's some interest. Maybe talk to folks on the tree committee. I know Jim's our rep to that, and so anyway, I'll see that gets on the agenda. And Roberta, did you have anything else there, or? Was that a hand up?
No, I wanted to confirm that Jim Jenkins was still our tree committee liaison.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Anyone else? Any other issues you see coming up? I think that we should aim for the next day or two. If you have anything, if you think of anything to get on the agenda, get to me, because that'll have to get out in the next, I think in the next 2 or 3 days. So, anyone else? Any discussion or concerns? Yeah, Ken.
Thanks, Chris. Just a quick comment. Thank you for running these meetings. Glad to have you as president, and just a comment on you being our representative on the town council. I know that I voted for some, seconded some motions today, and then one of them I voted against ultimately. My hope is that if we have these motions, even if they get voted down, they end up in our minutes. And I'm hoping that you'll bring some of these concerns forward to the town council when they discuss these issues.
Okay. I will try to do that. And if you have any particulars, feel free to email me
It's just the stuff that came up, like, liability, responsibility, and, specifying the location of the wall relative to property boundaries, that sort of stuff.
Sure.
Which
Okay.
I'm hoping the town council would consider anyway, but I'm glad that it's in our minutes.
Okay. Anyone else? Well, thank you for doing some extra duty this month, and a little bit longer than I thought it might be, but good meeting. And what are we on? Another week and a half, I guess, or maybe just another week for our next meeting. So we will see you then.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Deb. Thanks, Deb, for helping us out.
Thank you.